There he is. He's in a pod.
Pod time?
Pod time.
Actual pod time. Yeah, that's double.
Double
Double
pod
point.
time. Double pod time.
Nice.
Are we jumping straight in, baby Jamie?
Yeah.
Right.
ABR.
I am hot and bothered.
Alright, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Happy next week. Callum, you're hot and
I'm
bothered.
so hot and bothered, Jamie.
Tell me about it. Why? What's wrong?
It's
What's the
just
weather,
so
man?
hot, man. It's too hot for me. I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy and I get hot. I can't help it.
Yeah, it is warm.
It's been.
I'm not too bad.
Do you have an air-conditioned office?
Office, yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
not always in.
I have a scorching hot classroom with bare glass. It's like a greenhouse. It's not nice.
No. I was talking to someone on the platform the other day. Like his day-to-day is just walking around hot on the platform. And it's warm. Even there, it's like outside, but it's still warm.
Yeah, I can imagine.
can't
Lots of
complain.
engines, lots of heat.
Yeah, this aircon. Dreamy.
Are you in aircon right now?
Oh, yeah.
I cannot tell you how jealous I am. I've got home from work, logged on to my computer. I haven't even got changed because, like, I'm in a shirt. That's all right to do a podcast in. But the second I log off, I'm getting in the shower. The second. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. But hey ho, we're here. We're here for episode 2 of season 2, which will be an exciting. What's a good word to put? An exciting journey.
Thing.
An
Whenever
exciting
you don't know
thing.
what to say, it's an exciting thing.
It's an exciting
It's
thing.
so exciting.
And I'm really excited for this episode. So YouTube viewers will see that I don't have a paper open on my screen in the video. I have a map.
Oh!
What map do I have open?
I don't know, I can't see it.
Yo, guess.
I've got
Guess.
I've got some ideas.
What do you think?
I'm assuming we can see the misty mountains.
We can see the misty mountains.
Do we see Greenwood or Mirkwood though now?
We see Mirkwood. Mirkwood. It says Mirkwood.
Alright.
You can see the lonely mountain there. So this is a big nerdy episode. This is a big nerdy episode. I'm gonna flip to the paper. Do you want to tell us
what are we talking about? Oh yeah, I'll do it.
Go for it, Jamie.
So here we actually have a well, I'm not going to say it's a listener recommendation, but it's a recommendation regardless of here's a cool paper to look at. Paper today, The Climate of Middle Earth. Authored by Radagasta Brown. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's perfect.
The funniest thing when I was reading through this is I neglected to read who the author was, and I got to the end and it said R. Brown, and I was like, who's R. Brown? Who's this guy? And then I realised. So yeah, this is the first of at least 2 meme papers for this season.
Oh yes.
And we're very excited. We do love talking cutting edge, and we have some cutting edge plans. Certainly one of Jamie's passions next week. But today we're doing a meme paper, and that is The Climate of Middle Earth by none other than the wizard himself, Radagasta Brown. My intention today was to do a second pass and a second read through, but I didn't get a chance. It's been a wild day at work, so I'm going in.
I can imagine.
I'm going in having read it alongside my AI companion who has guided me to the interesting bits, but I know for a fact that my partner is far more prepared than I am, so I'm hoping this will still be a plain sailing experience. I'm conscious that I say that every week.
Which papers did you read all of?
I did read it.
That's okay.
You know, the depth I miss. I think that's purely down to abject laziness more than anything. But I'm going to cut myself a bit of slack because
Please do.
I don't care that much. It's
Yeah.
it's all a bit of fun. All a bit of fun, and I'm having a great time. Talk to me then. Talk to me about the climate of Middle Earth, which is probably my favourite place in Earth. Is in my
It's a
mind
good
thinking about
climate.
Middle Earth.
Well, without reading the paper, what do you think the climate of Middle Earth is? What do you like?
Well, I
Yeah,
know that
what do you
Tolkien,
project?
Tolkien, the whole premise of the Lord of the Rings, from my understanding, was Tolkien wanted a. And by the way, this isn't research. This is just because I'm a nerd. Tolkien wanted a mythos that was English. He would see all of these
Yeah,
other mythologies, Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and he was like, "Where's English mythology? Where's?" So certainly the Shire is modelled on the rolling hills of the English countryside, and I know. So there was obviously a lot of parallels drawn between like uh, the War of the Ring, and obviously Tolkien existed in the World Wars. So there was a lot of parallels drawn. He was adamant that those parallels are purely coincidental and have no bearing on his stories, but
sure,
we'll
sure.
leave that up to people who are smarter than me to discuss.
Yep, definitely not a literary nerd.
No, not particularly. I would consider myself a Lord of the Rings nerd, and now I do need to.
Mm.
I need to just say, did you know, in that one scene where Aragorn kicks the helmet, he Viggo Mortensen actually broke his toe? Did you know that?
I would say tell me more, but we're on a
No,
tight
hang
schedule
on,
here.
wait, no, you knew that. Tell me you knew that.
Of course, I knew
Okay,
that.
good.
Everybody
No,
knows
but
it.
seriously, I was thinking about this a lot in the lead up to this, and I wanted to bring it up because when I was a kid, I can vividly remember watching all of the appendices on DVD. I got the extended edition DVD, and I remember watching all the
Oh
appendices,
yeah.
and I thought I was like in the club, and I was the only one that knew that. And then like I start seeing TikToks and memes and reels all saying the same thing. I'm like, hang on, is this just common knowledge? So
At this
yeah,
point, yes.
turns out everyone knows that. But
Well, hang on. It might not be common knowledge to have it from source material. But that might be the novelty there that you have.
I'll
You
accept that.
watched the special cut.
I
You know?
used to watch the appendices on repeat. I loved them.
You
I
don't get
couldn't
that
get enough of
anymore.
them. No.
Where are your DVD extras? Nobody
No.
buys DVDs. Stream the movie. I'm done.
Yep. Yeah, it's
There's a
that. It's
couple of good
that. It's like
snippets out.
Zoomer culture, isn't it? Of I need it now, instant gratification, marvelization of all movies.
But I do like extras.
I love a bit of an
I
extra.
think for the latest extras, Dune. Watched and that was still probably
Do you have it?
extras. Dune.
Are there? So I take it you have the Dune DVD or Blu-ray.
Kind of, yeah. I had access to it.
That sounds a bit piratic.
It wasn't mine. It was my dad's.
Okay. It was me thinking you're a pirate. We wouldn't condone piracy.
Arr.
I've
Naturally.
never heard of LimeWire.
Sorry.
Exactly.
All right. Back to it.
Sorry.
Climate Middle Earth. What are we doing here? So paper here is about the climate Middle Earth. Paper in a nutshell. Take 3 scenarios, apply a climate model to them, and see what comes out. Kind of. They
Interesting. Very straightforward.
weren't strictly, yeah, pretty straightforward. Weren't strictly looking to test some bold hypothesis here.
Nope.
But it was just seeing. I think it was just for a bit of a
Bit of fun.
bit of a.
I think, I think
if you look to the acknowledgements, I get the impression that it was brewed up whilst they were at the pub having a pint.
which pub?
What-
The Green Dragon?
No, not quite the Green Dragon, the Prancing Pony. Oh, there you go. I thank the staff at the Prancing Pony, in particular.
I'm interested in...
Barleyman Butterbeer.
So Barliman Butterbeer, of course, is a human.
Oh, is that an actual character?
Yeah, that's the guy who like talks to the Hobbit. So like so what we're saying is that in that sort of, I don't know, how long did a human live? A regular human age, 50, 60 maybe. If this is before the events of the Lord of the Rings, like there's a good chance. Like I wonder canonically where
yes, that's a good
Radagast,
point.
where canonically is Radagast during the Lord of the Rings. I think he's just chilling in Mirkwood.
I think he's just chilling.
But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a plot hole there. There's a definite plot hole in this paper.
Consistency.
Yeah. It's like when their hat
I didn't
turns a
know
little bit
Buttermere.
in the next scene. Yeah. Yeah, Barlam and Buttermere. Buttermere,
Nice.
whatever his
So
name is.
they take these models, or they take these scenarios and they apply them. So the 3 models that we're looking at are a dinosaur Earth,
So
65 million years ago. Yep. And that's great. Take modern Earth, so pre-industrialization Earth, and take Middle Earth. Apply these to a climate model, and have a look at the results.
And look at the pictures.
So the, I guess, natty results that ended up coming out were, I don't know. But yeah, go on then. Let's skip forward to some pretty pictures.
I like the pictures.
Figures 3. Have a look at
Figure
figure 3.
three.
Actually, let's go figure 2. Figure 2 and 3 are right next to
Fig 2.
you.
So this is the
alright, so-
topography, isn't it?
Yeah, so this chap, Radagast,
You might have heard of him.
he took whatever maps he had access to, they had access to, on Middle Earth. Source material to this.
It
This is
said
just maps,
it
some of
said
the stuff in the books.
in this paper he says that he raided the maps of Minas Tirith. You know where Gandalf goes.
that a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah, I get
movies,
it.
yeah. So obviously they've got lots of maps there. What I found really interesting about the topography maps is how flat Arda is.
Yes.
Like
What's order?
Arda is the whole world. Middle Earth is the section, right?
Okay, all right.
So
yeah, it looks pretty flat. There's not much
It's
mountainous
literally
regions.
there's some mountains and some fields, nothing else. There's no like interesting topography whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, it's literally just like it's almost like it was designed by a human and not by natural occurrences, isn't it?
Almost like it's fictional. I don't know.
Yeah, fictional.
So yeah, we see the map. There's a little highlight on figure 2. What is the? Oh,
Are you talking about the squares?
Little zoom ins. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just
So
little
if you look
zoom-ins
at
for figure
if
3.
you're looking at C, which is Arda, that red square is red rectangle is Middle Earth, like the map, right?
Yep. And so I guess what we see when we look at figures A, B, and C are modern Earth, dinosaur Earth, and from a climate perspective, we can see that temperatures are like. Oh, is that temperatures? Really?
It's topography, no? This is height, isn't it?
No, I'm skipping ahead to figure 3.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll scroll.
Contours of annual average modelled temperature. Let's see. 0 degrees. Oh, how novel. Green on that plot suggests that it's 0 degrees is the mean temperature. Regardless. So, yeah, what we see is cold stuff up north, warmer stuff down south. So you've got like the UK is at like 0 degrees, 5 degrees as your annual average temperature. And if we look at dinosaur Earth, it's a fairly similar temperature distribution in terms of like, what have you got? 15 degrees average down to about 0 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at the yellows and greens. But what we do see is when we look at Middle Earth, we've got temperatures, I guess, where's the Shire on that? Is that like
The Shire
north,
is like
northwest?
yeah, northwest. But like
Where's your map? You've got a map, right?
I have, but you can't see it. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah. Nah, you're right.
Okay.
All right. What temperature's the Shire then in your plot?
Like 10 to 15 on average, which makes sense for
That feels about right.
maybe 5 to 10.
Those little hobbits are running around bare feet all the time. I dig
Yeah,
it.
but they've got adaptations for that. They have furry feet and hard soles on the bottom of their feet. Like they're a different species, Jamie. They're not just little humans.
And I guess if we think about the ratio of their volume to surface area, that's beneficial for cooling down in hotter climates. So
It definitely is.
not unreasonable. And towards the south. So in the previous Earth simulations, like temperatures get up to 20 degrees. But what we see towards Mordor is temperatures of 35 to 40 degrees
Well,
Celsius.
that's not.
That's
That's
madness.
south of Mordor. That's the desert, right?
Oh, is
That's
Mordor
Harad.
the little?
Mordor is the little like horseshoe.
Oh, okay. So then, I guess what?
So it is still hot in there.
Still pretty warm.
Yeah. They mention later in the paper about how the greenhouse gas emissions from Mount Doom are probably what causes that spike in temperature fluctuations, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah.
What is D, E, and F on this one? Is that pressure?
Precipitation.
So yeah,
how
rainfall.
wet things are.
So again, it's what you'd expect to see, I guess. I mean, I'm looking at the Middle Earth one. No precipitation in Harad down south, where it's deserty. More precipitation on the never eat shredded west. The west side of Middle Earth, which is where it's a lot more green and there's lots more. I'd say lots more forest. There's also Mirkwood. It is. You can definitely tell it's fictional when you look at a climate model like this, can't you? Interesting.
Well, I mean, yes. So the note that they made about the prevailing wind. So there's a. I'm not going to get this right, easterly or westerly. Hang on, I did scribble this down. So the prevailing wind brings moist air from the Western Ocean to the east.
Yeah.
And so as that moist
which
air
is exactly
your
what we
mountainous
see
regions,
on the diagram, by the way.
if we look at the precipitation, so it's coming from the ocean, and then it hits the mountains, cools and precipitates, and then it's quite dry on the east side of the misty mountains. So I guess that is a real climate thing, weather thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if these climate models are to be believed, the luck of the dice roll of Tolkien's fictional world is not. No, it's not bad. The conclusions later on, when we get to them, will show that there's some really interesting tidbits to sort of garner from it. Yeah, one thing I found really interesting, talking about dinosaur Earth as 65 million years ago.
I didn't pay much attention thinking about that. What have you got?
But what I was thinking was, like, it's weird to even think about it as being, like, why is that even relevant? Because the entire history of Middle-earth is, like, a few thousand years. Like, it is very much self-contained. I mean, how many thousands of years is the Second Age? It's like, I don't know. How long was the Second Age of Middle-earth?
You mean you can't pull this out from your Silmarillion?
3,441 years. This makes me feel old, but it's been like 11 years since I read the Silmarillion, and all I can remember thinking when I read that was, God, is this the Bible? Like, I just remember having to flick to the glossary every page. I don't think I'll ever read that again. But like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, love them.
Yeah, I didn't get far at all.
Yeah, but yeah, I just found it interesting. Why are we comparing it to 65 million years? Like 65 million years before the Third Age.
Would you like to know the reason that we are looking at this?
Go on.
At Dinosaur Earth. I think it's more of a what's the correct way to put it? They'd done the work already. So what I inferred from this paper is, look, we've got a project, we've been granted the money, we've done most of the research, but there's I can't remember if it's towards the end or towards the beginning, but they basically said, look, we've done this already. Oh, here, there you go, in the acknowledgements. This work forms part of a NERC project. The work was unfunded, and so I set up Middle-earth simulations in my spare time.
Amazing.
So the boring, like, political reason is, this is just the focus of the research group that did the work.
Right, I see.
Their bread and butter is to validate current climate models by applying it to the past and seeing how that holds up, because we know the answer currently. And so, like, maybe this is a neat segue into what a climate model is and how it works.
Yeah.
So,
I don't
do you know
too
how
much.
A climate model works?
All I know...
Neither do I.
I mean, so my cousin, shout out to my cousin Lauren, I know she listens. She's the one who has asked us to talk about hoverboards, so that may be coming sometime in the future. She is a little bit of a I don't really know how to say it. She's like an environmental scientist. She has a good understanding, and sort of when she and I have talked about these models, the biggest thing I've gleaned from our conversations is just these are very big, complex systems, and that's about as deep as I've gone. So my understanding of a climate model is really nothing but it's very complex and takes a lot of computing power.
That's yeah. That was my takeaway from the paper. Yeah.
Hmm.
So a computational model is describe a set of equations, describe some boundary conditions, describe an initial state of parameters, and then propagate in a series of time steps from this initial state.
Let's see
to the
what
next
happens.
state. And that's it. And like the way you make the step is described by the equations.
Hmm.
The divergence your state can make is strained by the boundary conditions. Then just kind of it.
And then you can predict the future, which is
then you
exactly
can
what
predict
the
the
weather
future.
does every day. They predict the future.
Well, yeah, so there's a lot of similarities between like a climate model and a weather forecasting model. They're just on different timescales. Like climate models ends hundreds of years.
Mm.
Weather's
Yeah.
attack or compromise on computational effort or resolution or coverage.
Hmm.
So the sort of things that go into a climate model. So in terms of boundary conditions, you have things like the global topography, ocean depth, rock and soil composition, atmospheric component concentration, solar heat transfer, planet rotation. So they're the sort of things that go into constraining your model, and that
So
one of the differences between. Please.
no, go on, carry on. I can say it in a minute. Or have you
Yeah.
lost
So
your
one of
train?
one of the differences between these three scenarios that we're exploring, so dinosaur, modern, and Middle Earth, are just applying different boundary conditions. So dinosaur Earth and Middle Earth, I think, they're very similar. Well, they're not really. Like they're the same planet, so you've got the same rotation and whatnot. Your topography differs, so you've got to find that topography. Atmospheric composition differs. And yeah, and then when they moved to the Middle Earth, the differences then were still on maps, so topography is all different. An assumption they made, which I'll come back to that one. They made some assumptions on what the initial vegetation is, and it's rubbery.
We love
But then they also assumed that the planet for Middle Earth is the same size and rotation as modern Earth. Don't know if that holds up.
Well,
and
I mean,
also assumed that the climate from the second and third age similar.
which makes
Does that
sense.
hold up?
I mean, I would imagine surely it does because Middle Earth is supposed to be an alternate version of Earth, right? So it makes
Right.
sense that
Okay.
they use that's what I was going to raise, those assumptions that they made in terms of rotation and size and climate. That's what I was going to interject and say, but you said it.
That holds up.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the second and third age? What happened in each?
The first stage. So the first stage is like the creation story, if you will.
Nice.
So it's been a long time since I've read the Silmarillion. The second age is a bit easier. The second age is like where you have men and elves, and I think the second age kind of. So did you watch any of what was that show, Rings of Power? That's all second age stuff. So it's like the forging of the rings, the war between Melkor and the elves, and then the third age is the War of the Ring. And then the fourth age begins when the ring is destroyed, if I'm not mistaken.
Seems like third age might be quite small. Oh no, that's still
The third age.
years
The
'cause
third
it
age
sits
is
around.
still considerably shorter, I think, than the other ages of Middle Earth. You are right.
And in terms of those boundary conditions, like what things would change? So, I think things to consider
the
would
topography
be
changes a hell of a lot.
yes.
Because the whole idea of when the elves sort of move away from Middle Earth, it literally is the continent splits, right? And you get that whole, like, you remember the end of the Lord of the Rings movie where they sail off into the west and the silver veil is lifted and you join the Undying Lands. Like, you can't just get to the Undying Lands, you've got to be an elf, right? I don't know.
That scene, every time,
crying
every time.
Yeah, it gets me, but that's because I've just watched 11 hours of an emotional journey. It's it leads me there.
Yeah, I even get that from the soundtrack.
I can't listen to that song without crying. I can't listen to that song without crying. Annie Lennox, Into the West. Shout out, Annie Lennox, if you're listening. I love you.
Oh, banger!
So good, so good. So
topology changes.
Topography.
We'd also the Saruman aspect, like, represents industrialization. So there's a lot of change in the vegetation there. So that changes.
I don't know if that's taken into account in this at all.
It's not. No.
It would be interesting to see the next step of this climate model and how the industrialization of Fangorn Forest and Isengard affects the climate, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Just below figure 4, so there's a there's a good comment on that. The vegetation component of the model allows us to examine the model predicted vegetation of Middle-earth. It is important to realise that the vegetation model does not take account of disturbance of vegetation from its natural state, such as forest fires caused inadvertently or otherwise by dragons, deforestation by dwarves, the growing of pipeweed by hobbits, or wanton destruction by orcs. So yes, it's not accounted for.
Did you realise when you were a kid that hobbits are, like, is pipeweed? Because I feel like pipeweed is different to tobacco because they have tobacco. So is pipeweed just drugs?
Weed?
Yeah, is it just drugs? Because one of my favourite bits is when the hobbits raid Saruman's little, and they find Saruman's secret stash. Oh my god, this is the worst episode yet because we're just talking about Lord of the Rings. If you don't like Lord of the Rings, I'm really sorry. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Let's look at figure 4 so we can talk about that. So you can see down in the Harad, it's just desert. I like that there's a little bit of desert at the northern peak of the Misty Mountains, which is sort of like almost where, I guess it's where, like, Angmar is, if I look at my map.
Is that thematically correct? Is that on point?
Yeah, I think so. Angmar is sort of the original home of the Witch King in the north. So there was the big battle between Angmar and Eriador and Anuminas, which is in that sort of region. But that kingdom, the kingdom of Arnor, is like fallen in the Third Age, right? And the remnants of that are the Rangers, which are like half the Dunedain Rangers. What's the ocean city?
It was in the thingy.
It was in the thingy.
Numenor?
Numenor, that's the one. Numenor. So they're like the descendants of Numenorians. So they're not like men, but they're not Numenorian men. They're like mixed blood, I guess. Which is why Aragorn's like 86 in the movies, but he looks much younger.
Nice.
What other interesting parts of that? So
looks pretty good.
We've got lots and lots of. It's interesting to me that there's lots of big. I don't know what I'm talking. It's not interesting at all. It's just some squares of green. What am I talking about? I just want to talk about Lord of the Rings. Oh god, I'm sweating.
All right. So, where do you think in Earth best represents the Shire?
Well, I know the answer because I've read the paper, Jamie, so we can talk about the results together, or I can pretend to be dumb. What would you like?
Take me to the results.
I don't know. Is it somewhere in England?
Yeah, there's a couple of places. So, how did they? Did you catch how they made the comparison?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm hoping you're about to tell me.
Figure 5. Let's go there.
I'm already there. Look at that.
Oh, great. Look at that.
For your video viewers, we're now on figure 5. So is it green areas are most Shire-like, right? In the top one?
Not quite. Green areas are most Shire-like with respect to temperature. Blue areas are most Shire-like. So I'm looking at figure 5B specifically.
Yes.
And and sea.
It's the reds
Blue
that we're
areas are
interested in,
most
isn't it?
rainy, and red is the intersection between those
Yes.
that matches. So from my climate, from this climate model, the results are precipitation maps, are temperature maps, like an end state. This is, and these maps were then compared with existing data from modern Earth climate models.
So what I
Or maybe
found
they compared. I don't know.
what
Anyway,
I found very interesting about this is twofold. Firstly, obviously it's that little area in England, that
Yep.
little red area, which is, you know, probably not dissimilar to what Tolkien was used to. I'm not sure exactly where Tolkien was from in the UK, but I'm sure he visited there at the very least, knew where, or
Yeah, I don't
he
know.
was familiar with that. But also, what I find really interesting is that so Figure C for our audio listeners is a map of New Zealand, which is obviously where they shot the Shire, and there's red points there and lots of green and lots of blue as well. And I'm not sure if that's exactly where it was shot. It would be interesting to know if it was.
I think this is the South Island,
Yes.
and it was shot in both the South and the North
I see.
Island.
But either way,
But at least the Shire or the Hobbiton that you can visit is North Island.
but yeah.
But what I thought was cool was that the place that they highlighted here in red was Dunedain.
Yeah,
Dunedin?
it sounds similar, doesn't it? Where does it say it in the underneath the fig?
Not
I'll have to
quite. I think we're
read.
we're in discussion. We're in the discussion. You can find it in one of the bullet points on page 8. Lincolnshire or Leicestershire in the UK, or near Dunedin.
Yeah. It does
in
sound
the South Island of New Zealand.
Does sound like Dunedin, just saying. And then D, C, and F are the same graph, but for Mordor. So what's very interesting here? Australia, big hot desert, quite similar to Mordor. They don't have orcs, but they've got like spiders that could kill you. Yeah.
Basically Aragog. I mean,
Aragog.
No. What? Shelob.
Aragog. That's Harry Potter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, Shelob. Or if we're going back to the first stage, Ungoliant. Ooh, that's a scary monster. Yeah. Ungoliant ate the world trees of Arda. It was one of Melkor's sins. Ooh, big.
Are the world trees like the big trees, the Erd trees?
Erd trees?
Ring?
I guess so, yeah. Similar imagery. They had Laurelin and Telperion of the light and the dark, basically. And I believe, I don't know, I can't remember. I want to say Shelob devoured the light, right? She was like black. Yeah, it's beautiful imagery.
Shelob or the other one?
Ungoliant. Yeah, the other one. Yeah, but Shelob is Ungoliant's spawn. She's like, so she's ancient, which is why it's such a big deal that Samwise stands up to her, and it's also why it's such a big deal that they have the little bottle of light. That's like
the light of Erendil.
Exactly, that's like the light of the Valar, which is why the spider gets so fucked up. I'm not allowed to swear. Which is why the spider gets so scared of it. I just get so excited talking about the Lord of the Rings, man. Normally, so whenever I'm driving, I listen to audiobooks, and I don't know if you know this, but Andy Serkis does all of the audiobooks, which is amazing because he does all the voices, and his Gollum voice is actually pretty good. Like, I don't know how he does it so well. It's iconically good. I just have them on repeat. Love it. I'm still obsessed, and that it came out 1999, so I was 6 when the first one came out. I'm still obsessed. 25 years
Did you go
later.
to see the first one in cinema?
No, I didn't see. My parents wouldn't let me see it. They were too scary.
Oh, me either.
But I did. My parents did buy the DVDs, and I.
Second one? Did you go to see any in the cinema?
I didn't see any in the cinema. None of them. Did you?
I think I saw. Yeah. I remember a fond memory I have was the first one I didn't see in cinema. Second one, I think I might. I definitely the four of us went to see the third one in the cinema.
Nice.
But like, I didn't know the books. So Dad had read the books, so he knew what happened.
Yeah.
And so, from the knowledge as a kid of, I've seen number 1, number 2, and number 3 is called The Return of the King. Like, as a kid, my mind was wild with ideas.
Who's the king?
What king is returning? I don't know.
I mean, that is.
I think I was thinking it was Sauron or something wild like that. Yeah. And then
it's nothing as cool as that. But yeah, no.
I remember asking my dad, "Who's the king?"
Really? So I have like this formative childhood memory of playing with a friend in the playground at school, and we would just reenact the fight scene between Aragorn and Lurtz at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, with, you know, when he pulls the sword into his chest and gloats, and then he gets his flipping head cracked off with. Oh, so good. So good. Anyway, let's talk about the results before we just drool about Lord of the Rings. Anyone that doesn't like Lord of the Rings has switched off long ago, though, so maybe we should just keep going.
They're not getting this far. No, I think we lean in at this point. Yeah. Well, results. I mean, that was kind of it. We touched on climate model, 3 climate models. The results were modern Earth is modern Earth. Dinosaur Earth looks like dinosaur Earth.
Why did you just do a thumbs up?
I mean,
You did a thumbs up, so I did an air horn. Wait, did your thumbs up happen automatically because you started counting with your thumb? Oh my god, you have a spicy computer.
There are fireworks on the screen, guys.
There were.
Yes, I can't help it.
That's amazing.
It just happens. Okay, on the results side at least, I think there's one thing I wouldn't mind touching on. So, models, like, they're really hard. I guess that's like the TLDR, and that was what your
May I share my take on models? So,
yeah, go on.
I am not as I guess I'm not educated to the same level in the sense that I have a BSc and it's a 2-2, and you are a PhD.
Hey, don't matter, man.
No, but so my scope is a bit smaller sometimes, right? And so when I teach the kids at school, there's we talk about models, and we talk about sort of a physical model, and we talk about when I get my kids. So I teach in an SEN school, so we have some very specific needs. So when we do like atoms, for example, we will put different coloured buttons and just glue them down. That would be a physical model, right? And then you have abstract models which exist in a computer or exist in your mind, for example. So I could close my eyes and I could picture an atom and see the 2A8 structure or the S orbitals, F orbitals, P orbitals, whatever. That's an abstract model, right? So these are like very complicated abstract models, is what I was trying to say, and then you can carry on.
Please. Yes. So yeah, computational model. It's just like I had on in the intro. You have some equations that describe some process or state. You have initial. You have an initial. You have boundary conditions to constrain it, and you just step through computationally one time increment at a time. Super powerful because you're condensing hundreds of years of information into a couple of hours of processing time, a bunch of information. So, like, in principle, kind of awesome. But one of the big aspects of, and what I infer is one of the drivers of this type of research, is how do you validate that it's correct? I mean, this was 2013. Old. Sure, things in the field have progressed. Anyway, it's really hard.
So do you have an answer to that? How do they validate? Because it's things like digging down into ice and seeing dissolved CO2 concentrations and things like that, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Basically, so you can progress your Well, maybe like if you run it back in time, you say progress a climate model from today to 400 years ago, and then you can at that 400 year ago state, you can evaluate what the parameters are, so atmospheric concentrations, and then you can compare that to measurements. So yeah, it's a lot of comparison.
I wonder if like someone 200 years ago had made a climate model for the next 200 years, if they would have predicted like the Industrial Revolution and the absolute
that is a good question.
dinner that human beings have done to the environment. I think that might be a good ending point, actually, to talk about sort of the state of the environment and global emissions and things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit depressing for the end of a fun episode about Lord of the Rings, but it's probably a good thing to mention.
Yeah, it's a bit of a state that we're in at the moment. I mean, you got industrialization that had a exponential effect on CO2 emissions and climate sensitive.
Have you seen the clip of
average temperature?
Have you seen the clip of Dr. Brian Cox where he's talking about climate deniers and he goes, "I brought the fucking graph," and he gets out a graph that shows temperatures going up against CO2. I'm like, can't argue with the graph.
Can't argue with that, man. Yeah, the evidence is solid. Evidence is solid. I've got a couple of other podcasts on the topic and pretty convincing, the primary source of it, but it's definitely got worse over the last 70s, 80s. Yeah.
Right, let's take it back to Middle Earth because it's getting sad.
Well, so the paper does touch on the importance of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is, policy.
Bureaucrats.
They're the ones who are going to make the change because they're going to make it regulation and
then people are not going to listen to the regulation because they're humans. They just want profits. I'm not a cynic.
Yeah. Okay. Results. Final takeaways. I guess. Lord of the Rings. Epic. Model Middle Earth. It was great.
My takeaway is just, right? I really enjoyed talking about the Lord of the Rings for 45 minutes or however long we've been recording. I've had a great time.
What a while! What a blast!
Yeah, and I thought it was. I found the paper very interesting. I love the fact that I didn't realise it was written by Radagast the Brown until I'd read it once and started talking to the AI PDF guy. It's been a good one. I'm trying to think of a little Middle Earth story I've got. So when we were kids, do you remember? So when we was in sixth form together, I was very obsessed with the Lord of the Rings Online. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
It's a dog game these days. Don't play it. Back then, though, it was quite good. And I remember... So, do you want a really embarrassing story or a really wholesome story about my Lord of the Rings?
Wholesome.
Wholesome. Okay.
Let's go wholesome.
Okay. So my wholesome Lord of the Rings story is I remember being like a level 20, going into the Troll Shores, which is where Rivendell is, and just like getting completely lost, running away from like wild trolls, and eventually coming to the ford at Bruinen, which is where the famous scene with Arwen and the ring race, and like they did like I will give the game a lot of flack, but the art team and like the story team were phenomenal, and it was like a 1-1 replication of the movie, and I would just like sit there like /sit with my little character, just take screenshots of the Ford of Bruinen. It was lovely, loved it. That's my little tidbit story. Yeah, it was nice,
really nice.
It was super nice.
All on board with good art.
Do you have any little Lord of the Rings tidbits to leave us on?
The only tidbit I wanted to point out, Tolkien wrote this. He wasn't considering climate models.
No.
But he detailed the ship setting out from the Grey Havens to the westward undying lands. And from a climate model.
It works.
That holds up.
It's amazing.
What a dude.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's really cool.
Prevailing winds in the climate model.
In Lord of the Rings Online, if you play as an elf, you start in Lindon, which is there where it's such a beautiful city in the game. I recommend you go and have a look.
The dog game, but check it out.
It's a beautiful game. It's just not very fun once you've seen it. But yeah, no, I think that's a lovely place to end. So
nice.
I've been Callum Morris. We didn't say that at the start. I've been Callum Morris. You've been...
I've been Jamie.
You can find us on Apple. You can find us wherever you find your normal podcast. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube if you prefer to be a video listener. It's a nice little bit of second monitor content. And if you like Lord of the Rings, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode because we're big Lord of the Rings nerds. And if you don't like Lord of the Rings and you made it this far, thank you so much for your time. We'll do better next week.
We'll catch you around, man.
Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.